GTPI be killing them, man. So this vibe is chill, right? Where we at? Oh, it looks like it's 7 o'clock. What up, everybody? How y'all doing? Yes, yes, yes.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to others, and good day.
That's right, that's right. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of Conversations Under the Hood with your host, Robert Helm, and your other host, the most important host.
Maybe. Yep.
No, you definitely are.
Oh.
Dr. Lindy Ray Helm. Thank you so much.
Hey, y'all.
Thank y'all for joining us
Welcome.
tonight. We are so excited to be here, and we hope that you are excited as well. Tonight, we're going to elaborate a little bit, like we normally do, right, from last week. It's pretty interesting because I think I had an idea of what we were going to talk about, but, you know, our show, we try not to script anything. So, given that's the case, you never know what the subject is going to be, right?
Yeah.
So we may
Yeah.
start down one path, and before you know it, we're in another.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, tonight we're going to just kind of reach back and finish talking about what we talked about last week. And I actually thought it was a pretty interesting conversation. I had a meeting during the week, kind of after the show,
Yeah.
where the information that we were able to kind of, I don't want to say collect necessarily, but gain from
Yeah.
the watchers from that.
Yeah. Feedback from our audience.
Yeah.
Like Isabel. Was it
Yep,
Isabel?
Isabel.
Yeah.
Isabel
Yeah.
was one of them.
Isabel and
Yep.
some
And-
of that collective, feedback, you were
Yeah.
able to use it to inform the meeting that you were in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was good because, you know, part of that conversation had to do with, you know, what it is that causes people to really support a cause, right? And we've been in nonprofit work ourselves, so we kind of know what that's like to get behind doing some work or doing things for people.
Just to serve.
Yeah. To really just give back to something that you're passionate about. And so, so this week we figured we would come back and kind of talk about that a little bit further, wrap up some of the comments that we had from last week, and offer people an opportunity to share some of their, you know, comments, questions, if you have any, this week. So let's see here. I want to go through here real quick, Doc. So how was your week? Let's start
My
there.
week was good. It went really fast though. Oh my God. I just can't believe towards this, holidays, how fast the time is going. Before we know it, we'll be in 2025. I'm not sure, if I'm ready for 2025, but
yeah.
hopefully everybody's ready and, rethinking about what you're going to do better in 2025. Compared to what you did in 2024.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody like me, you make this list of things that you're going to do better. And then by the time February gets here, you're back to 2024, repeating the same cycle.
Right.
So I'm working on how do I become intentional in terms of like the changes I want to make in 2025.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what my week has been about, realizing how quickly it went. What am I going to do different next year versus what I've been doing this year, and how to be intentional and actually meet all those goals.
Man, that sounds complex.
It is.
Yeah, I bet.
So it's hard, yeah.
Yeah, well, when I think about, your career, right? I mean, I guess it causes you to really think about that because you have to deal with budgets and like all kind of stuff every year as it transitions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, man, for me, 2024 came pretty quickly, I don't know. It felt like, I had a big plan for this year for everything that happened in 2024. 2024 seemed to be kind of crazy, man, in terms of the things that happened, just
ups
from
and downs.
Yeah, just everything.
Emotionally, financially, spiritually, physically.
Yep, all of that.
Every day, every year,
All of that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see that the year is coming to a close, and it's coming quick, man, because it seemed like just the other day it was a couple of months, and now it's like literally a couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know for me, I'm looking forward to big things in 2024, though. 2025. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
because 2024 has been one of those, like you said, ups and down years, but I think those downs kind of gave us an opportunity to see things in a unique way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that gives us a great outlook for 2025.
Yeah. I know when people say dance with life, it comes across like it's a cliche, right? But when you really think about it, and it's all about accepting, what's happening and how you can control how you respond to whatever is happening.
Yeah.
Because we do have an immense amount of power when it comes to responding to what's happening to you, regardless, whether it's financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is.
Right.
I think sometimes we get caught up in emotions and forgetting that we really do have the power, actually, and the freedom to decide how we want to respond to what life serves us.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the default emotion that you got used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, look here. So we got Denise Taylor. Hey, welcome to the show.
Sis.
And we have Ntombi Shibambu.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome. Yes. So thank you so much. I don't see, for some reason here, they're not showing up in this
in the
area
comments.
here. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So what we'll do is just, I guess, we'll keep an eye here and just make sure, hopefully, everybody can hear us and everything okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I said, so we were looking to recap on the subject that we had last week, which was, really focused on the things that compelled you to support causes, right? Yeah. So let's see here. Where did we leave off? I remember looking through the questions, and I said, man, goodness gracious, there were some good questions here that I wanted to kind of hit you with because I thought they were, it'd be great to hear from the doc, right? So I'm just going to
jump. From everybody. I said a lot.
Yes, and, indeed.
Everybody who knows the doc, aka, Lindy Way, I speak from my heart, and definitely my opinions, and perspective does not reflect everybody's, of the African descent's opinion and approach.
Right.
I literally speak about myself, my views, and how I see things, particularly to this topic. I know I left off in the terms of like how much I get turned off when I see the pictures of children, innocent children, depicted to invoke emotions in order to solicit finances from other people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think I responded a little bit strongly to that. I have no regrets, by the way. I'm not saying this to say, I'm not sorry. I do not care about how the media, I don't care, and I'm not going to apologize to my opinion, about how the media likes to portray Africa and African children.
Right.
I do believe there's a purpose, behind that.
Right.
Because if you tell the world that Africans and African children are a charity case, the world is responding to African people, as if we are a charity case.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense, the kind of questions I used to get here in America. And, of course, to my surprise, I didn't realize that the way I was responding to those questions was offensive to people who viewed Africa differently versus me who lived in Africa,
Right.
So anyway, so that's where we were last week.
Yeah. Well, good. So we're going to pick up from right there, okay? And I know as I was looking at what question to ask you, because we have, there was 10 different things here, actually. And I was trying to decide which one of those things were going to be the most ideal question to ask at that time. But just to stay consistent here, again, I'm trying to see if there is any way that, okay, here we go. There we are.
Hello, Ntombi. Hello.
Yes. So we got, there we are. Now we're on. There we go. Yeah, we were having just a little bit.
I gotta chuckle a little bit.
Uh-oh.
I said, hello, Ntombi.
Yeah.
I'll say the Shangan way. Hello, Ntombi. That's how you say it. So, but I'm in America, so I have to say, hello, Ntombi.
Oh, well. I'm going to leave that one alone here. Let me see here. All right, let's see everybody. If we can get everybody to share this, that'd be
Yeah.
great. I
Awesome.
just wanna. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I can do to kind of
Yeah.
help keep
Yeah,
this
you
going.
have few
But
people. You got Shane, you have
yeah, you notice
Emily.
it's not
Hello,
showing up.
Shane. Hey, Emily.
It's not showing up for viewers or
I
insights.
do
So
see it though.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't see. Okay, I do see that.
And
Never mind.
hi, hey, there's Nisi Taylor.
Yeah, let's say hello to everyone. All right. So anyway, so let's jump back into it because I talked to a few people this week, just updating them as to the fact that we were going to be having a show this weekend, and this weekend it was going to be kind of a part two of last show. Um,
Did you
and
tell them that your wife is going to speak her mind regardless of how they feel?
I don't. That wasn't a relevant part of the conversation, so no, I didn't say
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah, no, but I did let them know that some of the things that I had talked about with them previously.
Hmm.
Um, you know, in regards to because again, this project that I'm working on, I'm trying to get a feel for how we could present it to people so that they might be interested in supporting it
Yeah,
because
feel
it is definitely a worthy cause in my
right,
opinion. But
right.
then again, I know other people have different opinions and so forth, and that was kind of what I was trying to do is figure out what is it that compels people. So for any of our viewers that are out there this evening, right,
Hmm.
if y'all have any why I don't know why our comments keep going in and out like
They're
that.
showing in there though.
Yeah,
It
they
might
are.
be that just that
It
device.
says, I can't seem to be able to share the live for some reason. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening either here. For some strange
We're
reason.
gonna hire somebody like Mantombi. You know, Ntombi, she's here. She's very, very versatile when it comes to his
All right,
skill set
there we go. She
about sharing.
says, all right, so yeah, I'm not sure, and Tombi, why you wouldn't be able to share it.
Ntombi is a user error.
No, she's pretty savvy.
That's
She's
not
more
you.
savvy
No,
than us.
user, us. We are
Yeah,
using this technology
but
to
that's okay.
engage you.
let's
Yeah,
let's
so
just keep it let's just keep going I guess because I
when you
think there's
figure
a
it out,
delay.
let us know.
Yeah, I think it's a delay or something here.
Yeah.
But anyway, what does it say? Action needed. Close unused applications. Okay. What unused
Yeah. So
applications?
we're trying to do all of this all at once.
Let's
And
see.
my husband here, you gotta see the value and skill set of people like Dombi who uses this social media
Yeah,
and figure it out every time.
I think that's it right there.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, there we go.
Awesome.
It says to close unused applications. So I think that might have somehow been bogging down maybe our bandwidth or something there. See
Yeah.
here where it says? Okay. So we can dismiss that now. Okay. All right. So anyway, so let's jump into those questions right quick then. So again, this is circulating around the things that would compel you to support a cause, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says, how can small actions like donations or volunteering lead to significant change? So the causes that you would support, right?
Hmm.
How can funding those causes lead to some type of change? Do you think? Is there?
Well, and I'm going to jump into conclusion here really quick. It's
Mhm.
not suggesting one way or the other, but if you collect any kind of funding
Mhm.
to support a cause, make sure that you share with the people that funded that cause the outcomes.
Sure.
Because one thing that will literally make me stop funding a cause is if you're collecting, but you never show me where that money is going, one, and two, how is then making a change towards the cause or the people that you telling me that you're trying to help. Like for instance, if you say you're trying to help the homelessness in Michigan, which is where we are,
Mm-hmm.
at some point you have to tell me how many people are no longer homeless.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You have to show me some sort of results.
Mm-hmm.
Then that way it helps me quickly realize where my support is going.
Right.
If you're not able to show where my support is going, it's not a cause that I will continue to support or fund,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Because then I'm left with many dots to connect, whether it's your administrative fees, whether it is for your own, I don't know, your own financial self-preservation. That's what I'm trying to say. Or, I just don't know. You gotta show me where the money is going. First you told me a compelling story, I bought to it, and therefore I'm funding it somehow. For me to continue this funding, show me the results.
Right. So outcomes.
Outcomes. Exactly.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So how do you? I think one of the last kind of areas that we left off on was how can. Uh-oh.
Yep. You're getting some comments
Yeah.
there.
It says how can individuals find causes that align with their skills, interests, or passions? And I'll tackle that one, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, especially passions. Like if there's things that you do or things that you truly believe in, there's a cause for just about everything.
Right.
Or a nonprofit organization that has some elements of everything.
Right.
So that's probably not too hard to identify if you just even do a Google search or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
if like somebody was motivated by addressing the hunger issue, just Google hunger and see what organizations deal with that kind of problems and so forth, and
Right.
take it from there.
Oh man, yeah.
Okay.
That I know. I'm just laughing in my mind, like as because I've been working on a project this week. Part of and one of the projects that I was working on has to do with really problem solving, and so as I'm watching you, kind of the gears turn, if you will, as you are thinking. I'm just like, man, I think I'm on the right track with that. So
You're on the right track. I'm just gonna say this, and I'm
What?
gonna let you talk.
okay.
So,
Uh
just
oh.
remember,
Uh-oh.
behind the problem, there are real human beings just like you and I, and whatever strategy or approach you take to help those human beings, please be conscious to the nth degree, if I may, that those human beings don't need to be dehumanized for you to prove a point or to show how much relevant or how important that cause is.
All right.
Some respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Frederick and Denise Taylor says seeing is believing. So again, the outcomes, is certainly important.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Let's see here. We also have another. Can you see the comments here? Okay, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Why is it not updated here? See what I
Don't
mean?
worry about that. Just read where they're
Yeah.
at.
Okay. Well, it says, let's see, Ntombi says, I agree, considering there are people who misuse the system.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And depending on where you are in the world, some governments do protect their citizens.
Right.
And I'm going to say here in America, for instance, we have a lot of poverty here, homelessness, all of the things that a lot of people who don't live in America don't realize that it exists here in America as well.
Right.
But because this government, to a certain extent, does protect their citizens, you can come from a different country and come to expose homelessness, or starving children, or things that we see from other areas of the world.
Right.
So all that, it just really depends. But like to Denise's point, Nisi is my sister-in-law, so I don't know why my kids call her Aunt Nisi, so that's why I'm saying Nisi. To Denise's point, like seeing is believing, right? Sometimes people don't believe something until they actually see either is the results or the picture itself. But what I'm saying is like just keep in mind that whatever is presented to you is also your responsibility to get to the bottom of it.
Right.
Am I being showed for this picture because it's so easy to take a picture of this child in Africa without consent? Without care, without all of that you will have to think about when you're here in America.
Right.
You can't just go and take people's children's picture
Right.
without some sort of consent, and what you're going to do with those pictures afterwards. And I think that was my point last week, that I get that there's poverty in the world. I get that there's poverty in Africa just as everywhere else in the world. It's just that what kind of imagery are you allowed by the government or by any other entities in whatever country you're in,
Right.
to portray a picture of whatever cause you're supporting.
Sure.
I'm more sensitive about children because they don't have a choice. They don't have rights most of the time. So some people just take pictures and broadcast it all over the world to find their cause. And I'm appealing to your humanity as a human being with the means to do whatever you're doing. If you consider that child or those people behind your camera and your narrative as deserving human beings, would you do that if it was you?
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you definitely want to have humility and empathy and those aspects. Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of recap. So in this show here, we're supposed to take a deeper dive into the personal values, connections, and so forth, right?
Right.
That drive the meaningful change. So let's talk about that, right? Um, Last week you had mentioned, or maybe I actually mentioned, and you kind of elaborated on it, but about the things that you have supported in the past. And when I think about your story as a person, as a young person growing up into the adult that you are today, right? And look at the things that you have supported. You have empathy for, things that definitely like reflect kind of that past, right? So I wonder with other people if it's the same thing, right? Do we tend to just support things that we can relate to, right? Because we've experienced them. Because I believe we had talked about one of the other individuals that I spoke to last week, Denise, as a matter of fact, who talked about like homelessness and things of that nature.
Right.
And when I think about people who reach out and want to support and get involved in somehow supporting that cause, right, tend to reflect those same attributes in some way.
Yeah.
So I think, now as we look at ourselves, individually even, like, right, because we have a collective thing that we want to, I would say, is family, right? That's the thing that we support collectively, probably without question, right? But then we have our own personal things maybe that I don't know, maybe that we don't share with one another, or maybe that we just feel compassionate about or empathetic about in the moment, right? Because I think like certain causes, like with women, for instance,
Right.
you know how they trigger you with marketing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even just saying women, but people in general, right? They trigger you with marketing at certain times. So like with men, they hit us with specific marketing during Valentine's.
Shaving materials.
Yeah, but now I'm even thinking like Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
See what I mean?
Valentine's Day.
So it begins to project this ideology of what you should do or what have you, right? Same thing for Sweetest Day and then other holidays.
Yeah.
So things that we grow up with as, I think, being causes that are important to us.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking to my niece. Both of my nieces this afternoon before this show, and I was talking about how it's funny how your mind and your whole being is almost like a database. It collects every emotions, every words, or things that have said to you along the way, and when to differentiate when you're reacting to any situation according to what you have accumulated in your database along the way. So, similar to what you're saying.
Sure.
So the example that you came up, you were just, sharing here regarding Denise, that one of the things that she will more likely to fund or feel compassionate towards is homelessness, right? I don't know her story, but when I listen to that, my first question will be like, has she ever been homeless? Have she ever have faced, the reality or even the threat of being homeless, and which can be extremely scary. But if you somebody who has never have experienced that, or the fear or the perception of what's like, you couldn't relate, you cannot relate to where she's coming from. But
Well,
you don't
yeah.
have to have the same experience to
No.
relate to where
Sure.
people are coming from,
Sure.
which is where empathy, that's where empathy comes in.
Right.
But then, the reality is that when people experience certain things and they know that it has not been pleasant, it has not given them the positive feeling or what have you, they're more likely to want to help someone else not go through the same thing. So if you ever had the threat of homelessness, you will more likely to support the homelessness cause, right?
Maybe,
know.
maybe, because
Right.
I'm not suggesting that people only, well, like, so the kind of different conversations that I have with different people,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that was just kind of like the final analysis, right? So, like, I think people, because there's several causes, like the causes that you support, even
Right.
are not necessarily things that you dealt with,
Right.
but it's things that you're empathetic with, or
Yeah.
things that you can
Yeah.
relate to. Or
Right.
things that maybe you could imagine yourself being in a situation like, right?
Right.
Right.
And some
So,
of those situations requires humility, regardless of where you are in life, whether it's financially, spiritually or physically or what
right.
have you. Yeah.
Frederick Denise Taylor says, experience speaks louder than words.
True.
And that is so
Very
true.
true.
I mean, like, if you consider yourself as, like you said, a person who's humble, person who has empathy, things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think just causes that you've experienced would cause you to be supportive of.
Right.
I think things that are like what you might view as fundamental, human. I don't want to say rights, but you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah, if
the
you're
basic
empathetic
essentials.
being, you
Yeah.
don't have to go through the situation to empathize,
Right.
with the situation. I get what
Right.
you're saying, right?
Right.
If
Right.
you're a good human being, anything that is not, if it's less than pleasant, it's
Mhm.
not positive, you are able to see through that and choose, a way to either support a solution that will make it better,
Mhm.
or, not to participate in it to a certain extent, or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean that's a very valid point, that you don't have to be in a situation to understand the impact
Right.
of whatever situation
Right.
is, whether it's homelessness, whether it is domestic abuse, whether it is what have you.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really good point, because if you've never been in a situation where there's a domestic abuse, it's very easy to ignore domestic abuse. Domestic
Mhm.
any situation, whether it's kids or spousal abuse or what have you, and all of that. So
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is like, regardless of what your experience is in life,
Mhm.
if there's a situation that deserves, support, attention, awareness, or what have you, you don't have to have close, experience
Sure.
to recognize its significance
Right.
and its impact.
Okay. Well, we have someone who contests that. Let's see here. Denise says she disagrees.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
good.
yeah. Well, and that's okay, because we totally, like, when it comes down to it, like, I think the things that motivate us to do things definitely is different, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Denise? Because what are we disagreeing with?
Let's see here. Hold on a
Uh,
second.
That'd be really good to know. And we love when people show.
Yeah, it's not
uh,
updating here in front of us. I'm sorry. I just want to say, but let's welcome. We have another guest who jumped in here. Let's see, Mr. Kenny Bakari, I think.
Yeah.
Omo.
Sometimes we're seeing these questions like
Can
there's
you
a
pronounce
Y
that,
in
maybe?
there.
Kenny Oh. Well, anyway, welcome, Kenny.
Mhm.
Thank you for
Kenny
joining us.
Bakari Omo.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
for mispronouncing, but that's really good. And we apologize. We see your questions, but there may be a little bit of delay, for
It is.
instance, because if you said I disagree, I'm not sure what point
As
you
to what
disagree
point,
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like why? So if you can elaborate a little bit more, it will help this. And by the way, we love to hear what you disagree with or what you agree with.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with us, so
No. Yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah, that
Yes.
gives us an opportunity to elaborate more.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it's delaying
There's a
like
delay,
that.
but
yeah,
yeah.
let's just keep going.
Technical error, user
Let's
error.
keep. Hey, look, we are at the 30-minute point
Yeah.
already. So let's just real quick. Did we drop any nuggets yet? Is there any nuggets you can think of? Real
I
quick?
love that, I love Denise nugget there. Experience speaks louder than words.
Okay.
And that's very true. Even
Yeah.
in a career,
Yeah.
the best productive and high performing
Mm-hmm.
employees are the ones that learn from experience
Absolutely.
than just listening to the words. So that is so versatile, right? That goes in many, many different areas.
Okay, here we go. She says, like the old saying goes, and this is Denise here.
Yeah.
Like the old saying goes, walk a mile in my shoes and see through my eyes. Hey, without a doubt,
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to speculate,
Right.
right?
Right.
Without understanding or knowing what other people's experience is. So without question.
Or
So
even judging.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, how emotions? Let's talk about that. How emotions and storytelling. Now, we were supposed to be really kind of shifting. This was supposed to be part two. So, I
Yeah.
guess it's okay for us to go there.
Yeah.
But we're going to definitely want to touch some other elements of the things that we were talking about before the show, before we close out the show. Okay?
Yeah.
So, how emotions and storytelling build a strong bond with causes. So, let's talk about that real quick. So, again, last week I talked about a cause that I was familiar with because my mom was supportive of this cause as a child, which for me, I'm not sure if it motivated me or not to grow up to be somebody who was compassionate and empathetic in regards to helping others,
Yeah.
or not. But there's something that I can reflect back to in childhood, one of the things that I do remember. So, part of that was getting a letter every month, talking about the different things that they had done for, individuals. I think it even accompanied maybe a picture or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like, I respected that.
Yeah.
The fact that
Compelling.
we really came from a situation where we didn't have a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so to not have a whole lot and still be willing to help other people, I think that's the lesson that I learned from that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to have everything to be able to help people. You can help people with what you got. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. But I want to tie that to what Denise is pointing out, understanding what it feels like to be in somebody's reality.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to support a cause and feel some kind of way and feel like you're doing something at least, whether you have or not have. It's another to put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're trying to help.
Right.
And think, okay, the way I'm helping, is it really helping that person I'm trying to help, or is it just making me feel better that at least I'm doing something good? You know what I'm saying? So those are two different things.
So how does storytelling build a strong bond with causes? So can you answer that question? Is that
I can answer this from many different places. I see motivational speakers all the time. Their job is to appeal to you emotionally, and they'll use words, that captivate that emotions that you're looking for.
Sure.
They will tell you a story that some of you can relate, and all of that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying that as somebody who listens attentively, believe it or not, as much as I talk, I'm also a very good listener.
sure?
So I hear when the story is then imagined to where it needs to appeal to my emotions in order for me to react a certain way, So I'm just saying, and this goes without saying in many, many different ways. So, like for instance, if you want, I want you to agree with the cause of whether it's homelessness, whether it is infidelity, whether it's child abuse, I have to tell you a story that involves some sort of emotion.
Sure.
And the more I read your response, the more I add more. So it's a lot on that. At the end of the day, you have to figure out my motive. Why am I telling you the story? Is it for you to give? Or is it for you to change and also make sure that you are aware of their harmful behavior towards others so you don't obliviously participate on those actions or
Absolutely.
not. So that, I mean, it's the issue is much more broad, but again, walk a mile in my shoes, see things from my lenses, and see if
I
you
think that's
still
a great
use the
point.
same, vocabulary, if you still see it the same way. As much
Absolutely.
as that resonate to me, I also say that if sometimes it's impossible
Mm-hmm.
to walk into somebody, shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You've been born with a silver spoon. Your life is nothing, you know, less than privilege. And then when somebody like Denise say, walk a mile in my shoes, can you truly do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I get the point. But let's say, because remember, with privilege, with wealth and everything comes assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I say, yeah, I walked a mile in your shoes, and if I was you, I would have done this without realizing that I'm projecting my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no real connection of somebody who's been on the other end of spectrum of privilege look like.
Right.
And I think it's quite arrogant to feel like we can walk a mile, in somebody's shoes that we can't even relate to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great saying. I get the cliche, but it comes, okay. I see that. Okay, I'm done with that point. Okay, go
Hey,
ahead.
no, I think that's awesome, man. You listen. I'm sorry because I would just want to welcome. We have a couple of people that came in. We have Tracy. Tracy, welcome, and we also have
Thank
Michael.
you.
Welcome also. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. Listen, no. So going forward, like when I pick this up.
Yeah, okay. That's a clue that you need to wrap this up. Okay.
Hey, that's what I love about
That's
not having any kind of
Scripting?
Yeah, that's
okay. No, you
we
can
learning.
just tell me, like, get to the point. You ain't got to
No,
pick
no,
up
no,
the
no. I don't
phone.
want to be rude because the things you're saying make
You better be rude.
no. They make
Yeah,
good
yeah.
sense. So let's
Yeah.
see here. What did Tracy say? She says, for some reason I can't share the podcast. The only way I can end it is through the profile icon that says live. It's not even. What else we got there?
Tracy,
Not
I
even
think I
showing
need to
live
fire my
on your
engineer.
page in the feed. I don't know. So yeah, we tried to do something a little different today.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's not successful. So gosh, I have to apologize to you all.
Thank you, though, for
I
trying to
tried
share
to
it.
schedule an event and to make it so people, because some folks were saying they were having difficulty finding the link.
Hey, we have Michael Nyabako.
Yeah, I
If
think.
I said it right,
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, yeah,
Love you
we-
back.
That's right. Hey, my fingers
Yeah.
are broke, but I think I can make a heart. Yes,
Yeah.
we appreciate that. But no, we tried to send out the link to as many people as we could initially, and so I think we kind of did it a little bit different. So we apologize if there's any difficulties there. Let's see. Does this? Oh no, that would be just
We
me
are
posting.
38 minutes into the show.
Is that a shut
And
up?
I know there
statement?
was another question here that people wanted to ask to get
Yeah,
to.
well, we got to jump to the next subject because this week we were supposed to finalize the conversation from last week, and
Yeah.
since you have been our lead conversator,
Yeah.
all right, so we're gonna run through these last two ones real quick so we can jump into
I'll be brief.
we'll talk about next week. Okay. All right, so let's see here the role of transparency and trust in choosing the cause. Okay, so this is interesting. The role of transparency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trust in choosing the cause. So,
Mhm.
like I think you kind of touched on that already, right? Being able to see the outcomes, definitely.
Yeah,
Right.
I wanna see
What
the
it is you're
results.
supporting. It's
Mhm.
ideal to be able to see maybe the administrators that are making those outcomes possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then choosing the cause again. I think that just kind of falls back into what we were saying. It's either something that, like Denise said, walking a mile in my shoes. So it's either something that you've been through that you're likely to support, or if you're an empathetic person, it's something that tugs on your heartstrings, right?
Right.
And I
yeah.
think in a lot of cases, that's what a lot of things are designed. I hate to say it like that, but it's really designed to motivate you in one way or another, right? To act. And so at the end of the day, I think that's what it really comes down to. So let's jump to this last question here, or not question, but this last statement that we can address, and then we'll go into next week's show.
Okay. All right.
All right. So this was about ways to align your passion with these impactful actions. So I think that's interesting. I'll let you. I won't say anything. I'll just let you.
Yeah, ways to align your passion
Yeah.
with impactful action.
I know that sounds complicated, doesn't
Yeah. No, no, no. It's not. It's just that everybody's different.
it? Mm-hmm.
Aligning your passion with impactful action, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you judge that impactful action?
Right.
What's the impact? Show me what it was and what it is today before my support.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I can think of when you think about impactful action.
Mm-hmm.
Aligning your passions, of course, the passion is invoked by your experience or your empathy towards a cause, right? And your experience, if I once experienced homelessness, um, homelessness issue is more likely to impact me, and invoke that emotion.
Right.
Children, for instance, like I'm very open about my childhood experience, which makes me much more sensitive to children, right? And because I realized that as a child, I felt powerless, I felt invisible, I felt, disregarded and all of that. So I'm more likely to see when a child is feeling powerless,
Right.
Like I always give this example, and I'm okay short.
Mm-hmm.
When a child is forced to give a hug, right? We don't force adults to give a hug to strangers, but to a child, the first time the child is meeting their aunt or their uncle or whatever, say, "Oh, give your aunt a hug," and when child say no, we shame that child into giving a hug, right? That's just not right. So I'm more likely to recognize that and say, "Hey, don't take that power from that child. She don't know this stranger, and she's not obligated to show any kind of feelings or compassion
Right.
to people she don't know or he don't know, he doesn't know." So let's make sure, because I was that child, so I'm more likely to relate to that and recognize it and find the cause that empower children, whether they have protection or not.
Right. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Tracy says, I believe no idea, vision isn't reachable. The more passion and drive you have for something, the more it becomes touchable.
Yes.
I think that's dang.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely. And that's just being human, really, because unless you felt it, tasted
Yes,
it, touch it, it's hard to relate.
and Toby says, yes, we can only relate to what is heartfelt to us.
Yes,
Absolutely. I mean,
absolutely.
so all right. So I agree with that. But I'm gonna push the envelope a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I think about aligning with your passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about it. Like everybody shares something similar or something different, one way or the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say share something because let's just talk about passion. Let's see here. We live. I'm sorry, I'm jumping off the
Yeah,
subject
we
here.
live in a diverse community, supporting causes in a way of making everyone know they are important to our community.
Absolutely,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
Michael,
I
couldn't
agree,
agree with you. Wow.
Michael. That's an excellent point to make.
Yeah.
So anyway, I jumped around there, but I think the reality of your passion, right? So let's just say, let's use something like artists, right?
Yeah.
I think passion, when we talk about passion, a lot of times people might think of artists. So
Yeah.
let's think about an artist. How can we align art with, you know what I mean? Some cause out there. And, when you think, and I'm only mentioning that because some people don't feel like they have anything to offer,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes because everything is associated with finances, for instance.
Right.
But let's just say an artist. Maybe you don't have money, but you have that skill, right?
Yeah.
And a cause that you might be able to support. You might be able to paint art for something, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
imagining because I see so much artwork
Yeah.
done for, whether it's historical events or, current events that, maybe somebody died or, some
Yeah.
powerful, message.
Yeah.
And to think about all of those different things that you can do that maybe not be financial, but it might be in some other way an expression of passion
Right.
for,
Right.
you know what I mean? Some some cause. So I think that's really important. Let's see here. Where
I'm
we
just loving
at?
all those hearts, but you're right on point,
Yeah.
right? I often see people, like some people run,
Hmm.
for the cause. They do the marathon to support a certain cause or support awareness,
Hmm.
like whether it's breast cancer, whether it's anything else.
Hmm.
I've seen, recently also in America Got Talent or something like that. The kids that were homeless somewhere in
Right.
Africa, of course,
Hmm.
this young man taking them in and to support them and everything, he taught them to dance, to
Hmm.
perform, and all of that. So they brought that art to bring awareness to the world,
Right.
what their
Perfect
life
example.
is like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Perfect
was,
example.
really inspiring and, amazing. What causes do you support and why?
That's what we
Share your
asking.
thoughts.
Let's
Yeah,
let's throw that out there. We got a couple of viewers, and they're pretty active. So we want to thank everybody. So we
absolutely.
appreciate that. Thank you
So
so
much.
much.
Yeah.
We're gonna throw a question at you. So what causes do you support and why? So if
Yeah,
anybody
please
out
put it on
there,
the
yeah,
comments.
if you're
Yeah.
willing to just take a moment to share that in the comments, we would love to elaborate quickly. We got 4 minutes.
No, it's
Right. Nope. 4 minutes right now because the last 10 minutes I want to jump into
yeah.
the
Another
conversation.
question.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
We got to get into next week's topic at some
Okay.
point.
Okay.
So if anybody has anything going once, going twice, I don't see anything.
I,
I
I,
don't
I'll
see
close
anything.
it by saying this though.
Okay.
All these comments really are sharing something really significant.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, the average person would like to see other people living better in
Right.
all their ways.
Right.
And we all support, progression or betterment, what have you, of
Mhm.
people all over the world, however we will see it.
Mhm.
So I just want to say that any effort that you give to
Mhm.
better someone else's life is worth it.
Absolutely.
I know I've said a lot, but at the end of the day, don't give up, because anything that you can do from the very dearest,
man.
authentic part of your life
Mhm.
to make someone's life better, whether it's children with cancer, thank you, don't be, whether it's homelessness, whether it's domestic violence or what have you, anything you can do, especially if you're in a position of power or position to give,
Right.
it goes a long way. It's much more far-reaching than you can think of,
Right.
especially when it comes to children who have no protection, so
Absolutely.
or power or anything like that. So regardless of what I say, I do want to encourage anyone who is able to help. Help as much as you can. Just do your homework to make sure that you're not funding somebody's wealth who may be using all these stories, all these experiences to enrich themselves.
Right.
So make sure that you do your own research.
So, on that note, we're gonna close it out like this. Do your own researcher. Excuse me. Do your
Research.
own research. But I truly believe what another thing we should consider is being an active participant.
Right.
Your money, right? Because a lot of these organizations, that's what they're pretty much seeking is
Yeah,
that.
money.
But I think your labor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if you're passionate about something for real,
Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't be too far of a stretch for you to actually get out there and get involved physically. Now I know time and all these other things are a
Yeah,
component,
distance,
right? All of that, all that's a component.
Yeah.
But we can actively do things, no matter where we are. That can benefit those that we are sensitive towards or that we are passionate for because
Right.
of some other thing. So I just want to say that and kind of leave you with that in regards to the things that motivate us to support causes, right?
Right.
So let's kind of dabble off since let's see here. I missed it by about a minute because we're about 49, so I'm gonna have 11 minutes now. And I'm pretty excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to talk a little bit about, if I'm not mistaken, relationships. We were talking briefly about just before the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about different aspects of relationships, right? That our viewers might be interested in. Let's see here. We got one more comment. Let's see. With having children of mixed race, I support any positive cause dealing with positive aspects of interracial people. Trying to not let history deter my children. Wow.
Believing what they can, Yeah,
They can do anything.
Yeah.
Wow, man! I'm gonna open the phone on that one.
Oh, so you changing from your question? You know what?
Yeah, we need to address that. That is huge,
Yeah.
man. What a heck
My
of a
perspective
statement.
of that is that any child need to feel worthy.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's acknowledge her.
Yeah.
Tracy, very, very, very good point. Dr. Helm, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you know what? You go ahead. What's a good point about Tracy's point before I make mine?
What's a good? Hold on, we got another point here. I support
Yeah.
causes that relate to autism and disabilities. From my experience, not
Awesome.
many people know about. That's true.
That's
I'm
very
a father
true.
to 2 children on autism spectrum. I want to make sure that their future is bright.
Yes.
They have a platform they can live.
And they don't get stigmatized.
Yes,
Yeah, because
yes.
when we don't understand autism
Mm-hmm.
and mental illness and being different, whether you're a child of mixed race or a child on the other end of the spectrum.
Hold on. So this was
Okay.
no. This
All
how we gonna do this. Since you threw Tracy's to me,
Yeah,
I'm gonna throw Michael's to you. So I'm
Okay.
gonna answer Tracy's first.
because you're biracial. I'm just saying, people support the cause that hit home.
I'm
Sometimes.
I'm not gonna go there.
Okay.
I was
fine,
just simply saying
That's
that
cool.
you threw that to me, so I'm throwing that one to you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna address Tracy's, okay?
Mhm.
And let me just read it again here. It says, with having children of mixed race, I support any positive cause dealing with the positive aspects of interracial people, trying not to let history deter my children from believing they can do anything. I agree with that 100%. Irregardless of your statement, I'm just I think just
All right.
from a very general perspective, it's important to be aware of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
to value who you are, regardless of what other people's view is of that.
True.
Because the unfortunate part of most of us is we rely so much on our peers
Yeah.
and the environment around us to tell us who we are,
Exactly.
instead of us taking the time to deeply dive in and identify who we are.
Mhm.
So what I promote often is for people to evaluate themselves and what their contributions is to their everyday life. Because if we do take time to do that, whether it's a biracial thing, whether it's a black thing, whether it's a white thing, or any other thing,
Mhm.
it gives us an opportunity to identify areas that we can improve
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis that will lead us closer to the outcomes that we desire.
Mhm.
And so I think I would lean more in that direction.
Yeah.
So there's my response to
Yeah, that resonated a
Tracy's
lot.
point,
That's a good
and
point.
and thank you kindly for that, because that was an excellent point to raise. Now let's move on to Mr. Michaels. All right,
Yeah.
shall I read this so you could just respond to it? I shall.
Okay.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
He says he supports causes that relate to autism and disabilities. From his experience, or from my experience, as he says, not many people know a lot about autism.
Mhm.
I'm a father of 2 children on the autism spectrum.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that their future is bright and that they have a platform they can live life and make an impact.
That is a very, very profound statement. And I'm going to respond to that also because everybody has a right to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's in autism, whether it's in, race or biracial or what have you, in categories.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, be aware of what is very well known, right? Divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
People want to categorize people in terms of like what you look like, how do you behave, how do you respond, and, what size are you in this society. Just realize that is neither here nor there. The larger society want to put you in a box, right? You're this way, and therefore that's why you behave this way, and this is what you deserve.
Right.
All of that, if I may say, in my humble opinion, is false. Every human being in this world, regardless of what you look like, how you relate to the world, whether it is, even mental illness or, stress or color or anything like that, don't ever allow anyone or any institution to categorize you and put you in some sort of a box.
Right.
Because everybody in this world that we are participating in all areas of life, everybody has a right to participate equally. And it's often people that are in charge or people of power who divide people and say, hey, you have a disability and therefore you can't come in here, or you can have this, or you can have all of this but not here. And then we start to subscribe to that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And all of that, just remember, is somebody's perspective, making up all these areas of life of how we should participate. I genuinely believe that all of us should be able to participate in all these areas of life equally, regardless of our disability, whether it's disabilities, color, race, creed, religion, or whatever the case may be. And anytime there's that line that because you're this way, you gotta go that way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That, just remember, that is not a natural phenomena. There's always a human being who's orchestrating all these divisions, and all of us, we just find ourselves, reacting or participating to them. But then when you look at it, it's like every human being, regardless of your difference or lack thereof,
Right.
you have a right, to a decent life in all participations, whether it's in politics, education, religion, race, or whatever the category is. You have 100% equal right to get in there, and don't listen to those who tells you where you belong or where you don't belong. That is a human phenomenon, and it's often people of wealth and influence who tells us where we belong.
Right.
Because of our differences or lack thereof.
Right.
I know that's a lot to unpack,
No,
but that's generally what I believe.
Yeah. And what's evident about that is just thinking about, because I read his Michael's comment here twice, actually 3 times now.
Right.
Because it makes me think of Kiasi. Do you remember our oldest daughter, she actually worked with children and young adults, I'll say, because some of them were up to about 20 something years old.
Yeah, the young lady she was working with was a little bit older than her, and had autism.
Yeah. So she's worked with several different people like that, man, and it's just seeing what it takes.
Yeah.
Right, because it does take a special person to be able to endure everything that comes with that. Because it's a mental and physical exercise.
Oh,
almost.
and also is how the world reacts to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So what we've learned from our daughter, she used to say, Mom, the young lady that I work with, she's not very different from us. It's just that we have sometimes to be humble enough to see the world from her lenses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Instead of trying to make her fit in our lenses, because we're part of the majority, if you will. So if you take time to be humble enough and have enough empathy to see that there's nothing wrong with somebody who's different, there's everything wrong with all of us, how we react to somebody who's different.
Right.
That was a huge lesson, to learn from our child, right? And then from that resonated with me to the point where I realized that every time I'm sitting here observing a situation or somebody and say, oh my God, that person is different, then you have to stop yourself and say, why do I think that person is different? Simply because they don't look like what I think or what I've been indoctrinated to think that's what's acceptable or that's what's normal or what have you. And I think that's much broader than just autism. It's also, includes just being different, period.
No question.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at, because that could be an economic thing, when I think of, my life in particular as a young person, like people treat you differently for different reasons. So they always I don't want to say they always.
If everybody's wearing pink shoes, you're wearing blue shoes, and then all of a sudden, you are perceived differently, even stigmatized. To Michael's point and everybody's point here, if you're in a situation where the majority of people are not, you suffer that stigmatization, right? You suffer that being excluded or being described or being categorized. My thing is like, take a minute and figure out who is categorizing you. And is it really, you can choose? Well, no, not that you can choose, but you can realize how you react, to a situation and ask yourself, why am I seeing this different?
Right. So I think another question that I would ask is how, because some of us, like I know myself as a young person, as I was growing up, I was looking at life, we used to tease people, like especially when you're victimized by other people.
Right.
You almost can't wait to find somebody that you can victimize.
That you can victimize,
You know what I mean?
pass
To
on the
somehow,
pain.
yeah, it somehow makes you feel better.
Mhm.
But I would think that, if, what would it take? You know, is it even possible? Because when you look at all of the different religions out there and all of the different things out there,
Mhm.
right? Why is positivity not the number one thing? It doesn't necessarily have to be spirituality,
Yeah.
but why is positivity, which most religions surrounded in some form of positivity, right?
Yeah.
So why is it positivity is not our first go-to mechanism? It's the opposite of that, you know?
I think because the average person want to belong.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it when you're young at the park and there's that bully who, a lot of people don't agree with the bully's behavior.
Right.
But to stay safe so you're not the next victim of the bully or what have you, you're trying your best to belong, right? And I can even translate this to today's world. Nobody want to be in the losing team. So a lot of people do their best to try to belong, whether it's having a facade, whether it's faking, whether it's appearing confidence, intelligent, successful, or what have you. People are just trying to be accepted and to belong. So for for anyone else, if you see yourself in the team that people are trying to belong, that's where I want to appeal to your consciousness. Like, be aware of your privilege, if you will, right? Whether it is financial, whether it's spiritual, whether it is popularity or what have you, your influence. Be aware of it and do the right thing. Be aware when people are just trying to belong to you by validating your views and, wanting to be close to you by stigmatizing others and what have you, right? And it is really interesting. I've seen so many examples of this. I too have to be aware when I support whatever is trending or whoever, in my life. I have to ask myself, am I saying what comes from my heart, or am I saying the things that makes me to be accepted in this particular group, and that's very important. I think that the average person really, in everything that we're talking about, is just trying to belong, is just trying to be accepted, and is trying to not be stigmatized, and therefore we fake the funk.
So, okay. So my question still is, if spirituality, religion, whatever your take is on it, if that's the number one driving force, or maybe not the number one, but let's just say it's in the top three.
Yeah, that's why I say the average person.
Let's just say it's in the top three. That's the driving force. Why is it that positivity is not the first place that we go to? Like that, I'm looking at where we are here. We are over already. Goodness gracious.
Oh, God,
we're over
by
by 2 minutes here. But my question still remains: what is it? Why is positivity not the first place that most of us go? And I'm saying that because as you speak, I'm imagining a bully. I'm imagining somebody that's victimized by this bully, and then I'm imagining the people that's around them. And when I hear you talk, I'm saying, or I hear you saying that those people who are around would rather be with the bully and support the bully, and because they don't want to be victimized, than to support that person who is being bullied and increase the number of people who, let's say, suffering under the hand of the bully, than the people who are safe because they supporting the bully. And when I think about that dynamic, I'm like, man, what is it about us that make us fearful of pain and suffering, be it physical or emotional, be for the sake of not feeling pain and suffering? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I think majority of it has to do with fear, right? So when you see the bully portrays this energy that victimizes other people. So out of fear of being victimized, you find yourself trying to pick the safer side. You know what I'm saying? So the safer side, as negative as it seems safer to an average child in, parking in a park where you don't want to be bullied.
Right.
But another thing too is that the average human being, unfortunately, we have that head mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We have a tendency to just follow without taking the time and do the work that's required to question the situation that you find yourself believing in or following or doing, whatever. That so majority of us, instead of taking the work that's required to question things before we jump into it, most of us don't have the time to do that or don't realize that it's a necessary step and we just find ourselves following. So if the bully seems to have the popularity, seems to have the exception or the support, we jump into that, right? But then it takes a really special person to say, that is not right. Even if it makes me marginalized in my, it makes me unsafe and all of that, I'm not going to participate on that regardless of how many people are participating on that, right? It's,
And on that
it's
note,
hard.
ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
we want to thank you again for another great episode of Conversations Under the Hood. I hate to cut you short,
No,
but
that's
we're gonna
okay.
go
Thank
on
you.
and
We're
on
gonna
and on.
continue this next
No,
week
we
because
got
it's
to.
so important.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
conversation that it just seems to keep growing.
Yeah.
So let's close out the show with a couple of nuggets because we try to do this every weekend.
Yes.
So what nugget? What one thing can you drop for us tonight? I mean, let's give you an applause for that great
Maybe that was my
response.
nugget.
Yeah,
That
well,
was my
I think
nugget.
sum it up. Let's sum it up.
And sum it up is very easy to follow what's familiar, what's trending, and what's popular, and what's acceptable. It's another to take time and question your participation in
Right.
whatever it is, especially if it impacts other human beings. Especially if you become very aware of the power and influence that you may perceive yourself to have. That should be even more compelling, for you to do the right thing by asking the right questions, by making sure that you're just not following or supporting the trend because it's popular.
Absolutely.
Even if it puts you in a most uncomfortable place, if you choose to do the right thing by doing the work that's required and necessary to question whatever it is that somebody's telling you, whatever it is that somebody makes you want to believe or whatever, take time to do work for yourself. To make sure that you're participating not in a way that is negative but positive for everybody.
I love it.
Yeah.
We got one more comment before we finalize this, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Michael, he says, as humans, I believe we have been given a platform by our Creator, and what we do with it must be positive to make the world a better place for all.
Yes.
I agree. We must always be positive and support positive causes.
Absolutely.
What an excellent way to end the show.
Thank you,
Michael. We want to just thank you for taking time to join us this evening. I should say this night. Wow, this evening. Tracy, Denise, everybody who has joined us, we thank you. This was a great show tonight. Conversations Under the Hood. This is what it's all about, right?
Yeah, let's continue to have this conversation to bring awareness to each other so we can participate in this life with one another, in a way that's positive, that's sustainable, that build each other instead of tearing each other down.
Right.
That support cause that is positive for all of us.
Absolutely. I think so. And so my nugget for tonight, since you had such a great nugget, I just want to kind of go back to, the idea of supporting causes. I think, for me, this is kind of, I find myself, supporting things like where people support me, right? Causes that I've been able to benefit from. Those are causes that are easy to support, right? And so for those of you out there who are looking for causes that you can get behind, and you're involved in the community and things, that's a good place to start. Is those ones that are benefiting you. Start there. Start with supporting those who support you. And then beyond that, expand yourself to supporting those causes that need you, right? And we know that there's a lot of those out there, whether it's homelessness or,
children with cancer.
Man, what was that? Violence against women.
Yeah.
Like There's
Yeah.
some really important causes out there. So, you know, I encourage you to get involved in any way you can, because 2025, make 2025 your goal to do something.
Yeah, make it
Do
count.
something positive. Yeah,
Yeah.
make it count. There we
Make
go,
it
ladies
count.
and gentlemen.
Self-care.
We ending on that.
Yeah,
Make
start
it count.
with yourself, and once you get yourself together, kind of like in an airplane, put your mask first, and then from there you can help others. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, we
Awesome.
thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us for another great
Love
episode
y'all.
of Conversations Under the Hood. And until next week,
All right.
we out here.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Man, what a great show, man. I enjoyed that, man.
Yeah, I love when we have our audience, basically guiding this, sharing with us.
Yeah, it's on.